Afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Navi Mumbai Branch of WIRC of ICAI, I welcome all the participants to our today's webinar on Balancing Act, Hustling Smart, Letting Go Wisely. We are thrilled to have each and every one of you joining us today from various corners of the globe for this insightful and thought-provoking session. In a world that constantly demands our attention and effort, the concept of hustling smart has become increasingly relevant. Today, as we here to explore the art of balancing ambition and mindfulness. Understanding that success is not solely measured by the speed of pursuit, but also by the wisdom we employ along the way. Life is a journey, and in the pursuit of our goals, we often encounter the need to let go of certain things. These things may be the old, outdated beliefs that no longer serves us, some relationships, and also some unproductive habits. We need to let them go. Our distinguished speaker today will shed light on this topic of hustling smart and letting go wisely. We are honored to have Kanta. She is the past chairman of SAIPA and mother of two kids. And we don't have any other person to talk on this session. She is managing everything so wonderfully. She is also participants in lot of marathons, and the way she is managing and handling everything is so inspiration for all of us. We have lot of to learn from today's speaker. And as we embark on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment, let us an open mind and receptive heart. It is through shared experiences and collective wisdom that we can truly enrich our lives and those around us. I encourage each of every participants to engage actively, ask questions, and have discussion so we can get more information, more knowledge from today's webinar. Once again, I welcome all the participants in today's webinar, Hustling Smart, Letting Go Wisely. May this webinar be a source of inspiration and guidance as we navigate the exciting paths ahead. We have with us Ritika, today's moderator. I request Ritika to please introduce our today's speaker. Over to you, Ritika.
Thank you, Poonamji. I would like to introduce our today's speaker, Kanta Naikar. Is a distinguished professional accountant and luminary in the accounting field with over 2 decades of experience. As the former chairperson of the board of South African Institute of Professional Accountants, she is renowned for her excellence, integrity, and transformative leadership. Currently, as the managing director of Evolve Accounting, she has steered the firm to recognition over the past 8 years, emphasizing diversity and inclusion. Additionally, as the head of Invictus Foresight, Kanta specializes in strategic planning, providing visionary solutions to organizations and contributing significantly to the advancement of societal goals. Her entrepreneurial journey is marked by strategic foresight, leadership, and commitment to excellence, making her a beacon of inspiration in the dynamic landscape of modern business. She is also a non-executive board member. Through this, we understand this Ms. Kanta is an expert in hustling and balancing smart in her life. We welcome you, Kanta ji, for joining with us today from South Africa. Please enlighten us and put forward your thoughts on how you have been able to scale the heights in your professional life, facing the challenges being a woman and handling different responsibilities in your life. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Thank you to Poonam, thank you, Ritika, and thank you to the chairperson of the Navi Mumbai Branch, C.A. Nilesh. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. And I think I want to start by talking about how I got to be here. So in 2000, and I'll get to the topic just now. So in 2002, ICIA hosted the World Congress of Accountants in India. It was an amazing, and there may be people who attended, who are here. I know that Poonam attended because that's where I met her. I was at that time the chairman of the board of SAIPA, and I'll give you a bit of my SAIPA journey later on. But I walked up to Poonam because I was dressed in normal business clothing and she was dressed in the most beautiful sari. And I asked if I could take a picture to send to my mother because my mother kept saying to me, since I landed in Mumbai, I kept sending her pictures. We'd come to the institute and we had a meeting on the Sunday. I went in my casual wear and all of the ladies had beautiful saris. And my mother said to me, how can you go underdressed to especially to an Indian event? I said, it's not an event, it's a Sunday, we're testing the sound. And that was my first sort of onslaught of Indianness, right? Because I am Indian. I'm South Indian from a cultural perspective, but we are fourth and fifth generation here in South Africa. And of course, I bumped into Poonam and I had to take a picture because here was this young mother, chartered accountant, professional woman, dressed in a sari, looking beautiful. And of course, I still show that picture to a lot of people because you were such an inspiration. And so were all of the other women who attended that conference, dressed in traditional attire. And we struck up a conversation and we kept in touch. And this, me being here today, is as a result of that small conversation. And so for me, it shows the power of networking and the power of just identifying who with yourself and who you are in the globe. And the reality is that it doesn't take much to go up to a person to say hello. It doesn't take much to find, because we are different, yet we are the same. And I think if that's one, and it's a Gandhiji teaching, it's a Nelson Mandela teaching, it's a teaching globally, that we are different yet the same. So the reality is that small conversation sparked in 2002 in November, sparked this friendship where I started following Poonam. She started following me on social media and we started chatting to each other on WhatsApp. And when she says I run marathons, I don't. I walk 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 kilometers. She runs the marathons and she does all of the wonderful things that I did when I was much younger because I'm much older than she is. So yes, I am. And thank you, Poonam, for keeping in touch so that I'm here. So yes, what is the hustle? I fell into, and I'm going to tell my story before I can go into the types of questions I want each of you to answer for yourselves as a self-reflective journey. So I'm a professional accountant SA. So I'm a member of the South African Institute of Professional Accountants. I fell into business by sheer pure accident. I served my learnership, or as you would call it, articles, for 3 years at a chartered accountancy firm in South Africa. I then went over to manage a firm that was a cyber firm at that time. And I worked there for a few years until I realized I'd been married for 5 years and it was now time to have kids. And obviously fell pregnant with my first child. And the person that owned that firm said to me, what are you going to do? You can't give up the fact that you want to be an accountant, a chartered accountant for that. And yes, I wrote exams 3 times. I wrote what we call the certificate in theory of accounting, which is similar to your higher levels before you write your final chartered accountancy exam. And I kept passing different subjects. And I would get one subject and not the other, and you had to pass all 4. And by then I'd already now finished my articles and I'd had my baby. And my friend said to me, please register. It was called the CFA then, but it's CIPA now. And I registered and together with my little baby in his carry seat, fell into business quite by accident and started an accounting practice quite by accident. And that then grew. In that time, he grew up with that practice. I realized I needed to have help. I needed to ask for help. And so I hired help to come help me, and I worked from home. Because I wanted to be a mother, I wanted to be a hands-on mother, but I also wanted to be a professional because I hadn't studied for so long to just throw all of this away. So the hustle was real because it was being introduced into motherhood and it was running a business, which was something I had not planned in my head. My plan was to pass my chartered accountancy, become a tax consultant, work at Deloitte or one of the other big 4, big 5, and have a corner office. And that plan changed when I fell into business. So I had my second baby, and this is a funny story because the day before my daughter was actually born, I ended up at a client and I had to be driven and dropped off at a client because I couldn't drive because I was simply too pregnant. Right? And the next day I had the baby, and I was discharged the following day. And you all in India will realize that it was also Diwali week, and it was Diwali the next day. And so I got discharged from hospital, came home with my new baby, had Diwali, and the next day I had a client arriving with one of their staff members to be introduced and trained at my home because I worked from home. And so when I say the hustle is real, it was juggling between having kids, running this business, now having two kids, breastfeeding, and doing all of the things that women have to do that are normal to us as women and as mothers, and then obviously running this business. And so the business grew. It was what I termed a mommy business because I fitted my lifestyle and my motherhood into running a business. But I also tried to grow that business and obviously take on staff and do lots of things. And that's then grew over the last 20 odd years to where in the last 8 years, my business partner, who is my best friend, and I decided to merge, and we formed Evolve Accounting. And I'm very proud to say that we are a firm of female accountants, and it's not that we have anything against men. We just happened to employ all female, and we work so wonderfully together because for us, work is a partnership, and work is joy, and we're happy to come to work. And I think that's the most important thing. But we also realize that we can't do everything, and that's going to talk a little bit to hustling smart and letting go wisely. So that's a short story on my professional journey. But from my board appointments and how I became chairman of the board, and very, very succinctly, was that my now business partner, Rukia, and myself very meekly decided way back in 2005 to attend a conference in Cape Town here in South Africa. We attended a conference in Cape Town, not having attended a conference before, and it was a cyber national conference. And at that conference, there were 400 people. And of those 400 people, there were 10 women, 10 out of 400. And we were part of that 10. We were, I think at that time, Rukia will remind me, we were possibly the only two women of Indian origin. Anyway, we ended up attending the conference, getting involved in the structures thereafter at branch level, like I'm speaking to you guys now. And then Rukia supporting that from being a secretary and learning sort of all the ropes around how you work within a branch like you're doing here. I became chairperson of the region and eventually got very involved in the structures of the institute. And I must say at that time, I had quite a few sponsors, and those were my male counterparts. So those were men that sat on these committees that recognized that they needed to bring women along. And we needed the representativity, and then me just being open to learning, and me then obviously doing that and paying it forward with other young women coming through, but also changing the status quo. And I think I may say something controversial here. My claim to fame at the regional level or at the branch level was that I had young kids and I couldn't attend meetings at 4:30 p.m. and 5 p.m. and I had to cook and I had to have dinner ready and all of those sort of things. And so part of my hustle was asking the committee to change their meeting times. And so we changed those meeting times to 2:30 when I finished fetching my kids, and I could bring them with me, and I could arrange for somebody's, if the meetings were held at somebody's office, arrange for somebody in that office to babysit my kids, coloring or doing other things whilst I sat in the meeting, and they could run in and out of the meeting room. And that was one way in which we incorporated women way back then. It was a long time ago, 2005, into getting into committees, etc. So part of the hustle is not being afraid to ask and not being afraid to change the state. And I've done a few things in terms of lecturing and mentoring and guiding other younger women. And a lot of them say to me, Mrs. K, but this is you can ask. And yes, I can ask now. Yes, I have the confidence. Yes, I've created those spaces, etc. But back then it was a difficult ask. I had some of our male counterparts, some of the members shouting at me for saying, why do you have things on a Saturday? Saturday is family day. And I said, but it's the only time women can attend because they can get babysitters and, they have much more help on a weekend. So it was also about changing the status quo. So when we talk about, and I mean, I'll take questions as we go, and you can ask questions about how you do what. But I think the biggest thing is also having a support system. And I didn't have my family or my parents around me earlier, when my kids were younger. So my dad retired and they moved back to closer to me. And that became a really good way in which I could have, or I had the support in order to do the things that I could do. But I think if I want to bring it down to a few very critical things, and you can all take notes, and I've submitted some questions to the committee to send out to you to do some self-reflection during and after this talk, is that you've got to embrace some priorities in your life, and you've got to ask yourself, and we all carry heavy loads. Men and women carry heavy loads because the pace of life nowadays is just is incredible. So I think we all juggle a number of things, and we need to actually prioritize what is critical. So it's that 80-20 rule. It's trying to understand what impact am I trying to make here. And when you're at work, you're at work. And people always ask me in relation to this, how do you prioritize? Because, how do you excel in every area? And you simply can't. You can't. It's impossible as a human being to excel in every area of your life, personally and professionally. So you've got to find those times when you focus, and when you try and align where you're going to, from a short-term perspective, medium-term, and long-term, and where you will get the most amount of value. From a work-life balance, I like to say that I don't have a work-life balance. I have a seesaw. And that seesaw means that sometimes it's 80-20 and sometimes it's 50-50. And I try to incorporate that. So this happened by chance because my kids ended up growing up within my practice. Like I said, I did have some support from and I had a lot of support from my parents, because when they moved back to the town that I lived in at that time, and I had other support. So if you don't delegate what you need to do, you ain't getting anywhere. You've got to find people that can help you. For instance, in India, I know you may have access to a driver, a cook, somebody who takes your kids to extramurals, etc. You've got to utilize what you have at your disposal. In my case, it was my mom and dad. Thank God for them for the primary school years and much of the high school years of my kids. We actually carved out space at that time in the office that I ran from their home in their basement, because it was a home-based business. We carved out space for my kids to do their homework. So they would do homework. I'd be able to look at it, I'd go up to my mom, and she'd be able to look at it. And so from using that as a practice, we were able to get through a lot of what we needed to get through as a family as well. Then a big thing is embracing imperfection. So we are perfectionists, we are accountants. It's what we do. We balance the books. The numbers must be 100% correct. But it's a barrier to progress, because if we need to embrace that if something is not 100%, or something can be not 100% in order for it to be okay. So I think as women generally, we don't embrace imperfection. We strive for things being 100%. And yes, you must strive for continuous improvement. You must learn from your failures. You must want to do better. That's just the human spirit. And you must embrace growth at every level of your life and through everything that you do. So even when you do something personally, it's okay to fail. It's absolutely okay to fail, because you fall down 10 times, you get up 9 times. It's okay. You need to learn from those sort of things. You can't be in control all of the time. It's impossible. And we know, and COVID was a good example of that. We know that. We know that when COVID hit in South Africa, anywhere else in the globe, as well as India. I mean, I kept asking the question when I was in India in 2022, how did you guys manage COVID? How did Mumbai come to a standstill? Because Mumbai never comes to a standstill, what I know. And you did. You all managed to go back into your homes, and we all, even here in South Africa, managed to not be in control, because it was something that was just totally out of our control. Then and very quickly, I want to talk about setting boundaries. Our time gets eaten up very quickly as professionals. And if you don't set a boundary for when you work and when you don't work, and COVID changed that, because it introduced this sort of thing where we could be global and we could be working 24 24/7, and we could be, we are able to then work across borders, but not actually stop. And you've got to learn how to control that. And only you are in control of that. There's no formula or right formula. You will understand what is priority to you. You will understand what your commitments are. I'll take a very simple example. I know that people have many faiths on here, but if you're celebrating Easter, for instance, you will take the time off. If you're Muslim and you're a man and you're needing to go to mosque, and you're a woman and you're praying on a Friday, you will take the time off. If you're Hindu and you had Shivaratri and you're going to stay the whole night awake, you will take the time off. So that's creating boundaries and prioritizing things, because that's important to you. So in the same way with your work, you've got to create those boundaries, and you've got to understand what's important to you. So prioritize and create the boundaries between your personal life and guard it fiercely. And the hardest thing, and I'm the worst opponent of this. It's taken me a long time to get here, to be able to say no. Thank you, but no thank you. I love the opportunity, but no thank you. And here as well, I want to talk about setting boundaries around keeping yourself healthy. We spend our lives as accountants sitting in front of laptops, sitting down, being sedentary, not working. And I was chatting to my sister over the weekend, and she was talking about the small changes that you need to make in your lifestyle in order to ensure the longevity of your life. And we forget that we've got to be healthy. We've got to meditate. We've got to walk. We've got to drink enough water. We've got to not sit at our desks for 4 hours. We've got to set reminders that remind us to stand up from time to time and look away from the screen. So in today's very hectic world, it's critical that you set boundaries, because you can continue hustling and achieve nothing. So the topic, hustling smart and letting go wisely, is understanding what you need to let go of. Then the last thing is cultivating self-compassion. And the reason why I want to bring it to a close, because I know I'm 30 minutes in, is I want to encourage discussion between us, because I believe the best way to learn is to share stories and to ask questions and to learn, build on other people's experiences and learn from their experience. So how do we cultivate self-compassion? What is self-compassion? We forget very quickly in this very busy world that we are allowed to actually be compassionate to ourselves first. So it's about practicing things that allow you to acknowledge what you've achieved. So when somebody says, "Oh, you're amazing, you're a chartered accountant," and you go, "Oh, it's just one of those things." It's not one of those things. It's a great achievement, and you've got to actually learn to acknowledge that. And we don't, because it's just taken as something that we do because we get so caught up in our lives or our daily lives as to what we need to achieve. Be gentle with yourself when things don't go as planned. At the moment in South Africa, and probably a few of my South African colleagues on here, our systems in terms of our revenue office and our company registration office are a mess. It is beyond our control. It is a technological glitch. There's nothing we can do to change it. The only thing we can do is find other ways in which to assist our clients, because we sit as accountants, we sit as agents to the entrepreneurs that come to us, that assist them with this process, as you do with your GST. And I know you've got some very heavy reporting with GST. I learned that in January when I was in Bangalore. So you need to learn how to be compassionate to yourself and build some resilience, so that you can bounce back from your challenges easily. And those challenges can be many and varied. I mean, I heard a story last night, and I thought, how does somebody go through life with these sort of challenges? But they do. People go through life with challenges that we don't even know about, that seem insurmountable, yet they get through life. And so for me, it's building that sort of hard or coding that sort of thinking and resilience into your life. So for me, those 5 things that I've mentioned now: prioritizing, delegating effectively, embracing imperfection, setting your boundaries well, and cultivating some self-compassion are things that will allow you to hustle smart and let go wisely. And it's a long journey. I wouldn't be speaking to you in this way if I was in my 20s and 30s. Now that I'm 50, it is a different ballgame, because I've been through the lessons and I've realized what I can take from it and what I need to practice and what I can simply let go as the saying goes, do not sweat the small stuff. You will learn that and I don't know how young or old people are on this call, but as you go through life and if you have kids and they go through their teenage years, you realize you simply cannot sweat the small stuff, but you must allow yourself to learn continuously, to grow from your experiences, to be agile in your thinking, and change is allowed. Change is allowed. So if your spouse wants to wash the dishes, allow him to wash the dishes. Even if it's not washed cleanly the first time, you will teach him that it needs to be done that way. Allow yourself to be criticized. If you're constantly saying, I'm trying to catch up, pass some of the chores to your spouse and allow him to pass some chores to you and share the load. Because life is about sharing the load, and there's no gender specific. And my son always says this. He says, cooking is not a gender specific skill. So I said, okay, in that case, you must learn how to make roti. And he did. He doesn't roll around roti, but he does roll. And I'm thinking that's my contribution to the world, that cooking is not a gender specific skill. Cleaning is not a gender specific skill. Caring for children is not a gender specific skill. And in this very professional, fast age world, we all can do it if we all allow each other the grace to do it and allow the mistakes to be made. So that's my very, very short talk, and I'm going to expound on some of it a little bit more, but I'm very open to discussion. I see Nilesh has got his camera on, and questions.
Bhagwati, please start their camera and mic so they can ask questions.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. I would like to ask you the major cultural differences that you would have seen while in India and in South Africa. Can you just mention about a few which affects our work life?
So I see a lot in India. There are a lot of similarities, right? Because obviously I'm Indian and I come from that background. Women all over the world go through the same challenges. Men all over the world go through the same challenges too. The differences are that I think you still have a bit of a way to go in terms of seeing the number of people on boards in professional spaces. And I'll give you a very real example. On the Sunday before the World Congress of Accountants, when we did go to the Mumbai branch, Mr. Debashish in his office, we were chatting around how many people are on the board of ICIA, I know you have some government people that sit on this, you'll have positions for government, you have positions that are voted on within the branches, and then they go up into the national or the bigger board. And he said, I said, but how many women do you have, sir? And he said 3. And I sat there and I said, no, that's not good. From 33 people to have 3 women is not good. And this is the conversation I need to have this entire conference, because we were in this position in South Africa as well. And he said, no, but that is okay. And I said, no, it's not okay. So he knows me as the lady that will constantly come and ask, how many women do you have in the branches? How many women do you have in positions of leadership? I think we're seeing that change, because I think you do have legislation in terms of the 30% of professionals that or leadership that you need to see on boards, etc. And I think that will change over time. But it's going to change in 2 ways. If women are not bold enough to stand up and ask for those positions, and when I say not fight, you don't need to fight. You need to be seen as an equal, and you can be seen as an equal. Poonam is sitting here as part of this committee. I think you need to put your hand up and you need to say, I can be counted. So the difference is, in South Africa, we're not that far ahead, but we do see more people on boards and in leadership positions, as I've witnessed in India. But having said that, I was in Bangalore in January this year. It was part of a study group. And the number of, well, I think specifically we had women entrepreneurs come to speak to us, people that are founders of companies, etc. And they were all women. And I was very, very impressed, because it showed me a very different side to India. I was very used to seeing ICIA. I've been to your GloPac and I've been to World Congress and Mumbai and all over, but I hadn't experienced what I'd seen. And we went to an auto rickshaw co-op, and there the women were in charge. it was a very different look. And we went to your Reserve Bank in Bangalore, and we were addressed, the two senior leaders were women. And so the difference, I think, or what I'd like to highlight is one of the things you women can do as chartered accountants and leaders in your own right. I mean, just to get a chartered accountancy designation, I think anywhere in the world, you're a leader already, is that you need to put up your hand and you need to be able to ask those difficult questions. There's a young lady, and I'm not sure if she's on this call, and I met her at your Glow Pack. Her name is Moni. She attended the Glow Pack. She came to me the one evening and she said, I'm really interested in sustainability, and it seems like I'm not being given an opportunity to voice my knowledge. And I said, but you need to go to all of the conferences, and let me go and introduce you to one of the ICAI board members that I know. And I think Aniket was not there, but there was somebody else. And I introduced him and I said, she's from Pune, and I'd like to see that in the future you try and support her. And so it's also looking for male sponsorship. And I mean, I had, before this call, I had a really nice conversation with C. Nilesh, and he was saying to me that it's important. We've got many women on this call, but we need to have women and men, because men sponsor women. And by men understanding what role women need to play, it makes it a little bit easier. So sometimes it's about you taking the step forward. There are differences between South Africa and India. And I think you'll find that globally. Like, so if you go to a lot of the Eastern countries, where in our cultures, women ordinary, like in the past, never had these positions, right? And we would never be the outspoken, louder people, or we'd be seen as being, too loud. You've actually got to ask. Whereas if you look at the US and North America and Europe, it's a very different dynamic and diversity set. So I hope I've answered your question.
We have your questions also. So can I share with the participants this question?
Yes, you can.
I'm not getting option to share. Bhagwati, can you share the that PDF? Actually, I'm not getting option to share this.
Okay.
So whilst we're waiting to share the PDF, and the reason why we're having the series is due to International Women's Day, and the theme of International Women's Day is inspire inclusion. So it's, what are you doing to inspire inclusion? And you could be a male or a female. So this is inclusion. This is having a conversation, an open conversation about learning from other people's experiences. What I did do very hurriedly just before this is, just based on the 5 things that I'd selected, is put together questions that I think you can all answer for yourselves about, and this can be shared. It's about, how do you embrace priorities, and what are your goals, and how do you work through these? How does this align to where you want to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Because also, if you don't plan, you're not getting anywhere. How do you prioritize? And I think it's important for you to answer these questions personally, and then perhaps have a discussion with a colleague, with a business partner, with somebody within your branch, even with a male. It's absolutely fine to have this kind of, or with your spouse, because sometimes you have that type of relationship where you can have this discussion, and it's important to have these discussions so that you know where you are, because most of the time we think that we're on this journey, but we're actually not. We're so far off center. We're needing people to pull us back onto course. So I'd like for each of you to answer and maybe share some of what your answers are to the questions. So if we look at the first one, embrace prioritization. What are your top personal and professional goals right now? Can I ask somebody if they're willing to share with us? Just off pat, I know it's completely, it's not even, you haven't prepared for this, but if you read this question, read the sentence, and you ask yourself, what are your personal and professional goals, and asking yourself how you're going to achieve that. Is there somebody that's willing to share?
Anyone, please share.
Everybody is shy. So I'm going to ask Poonam. So I put Poonam on the spot because I know she's very goal driven. I see her running, cycling, gymming, doing all of the women's events. I think you were at one recent, like this weekend, which I saw you post about, and I'll talk about that as well. Tell us, what are your top personal and professional goals right now?
So right now, I have like made a list just 1 month back by reading the book of Brian Tracy, and what he suggested, you write 10 goals in personal life, in professional life, and then you finalize which is the one, if you focus 100%, will change your life drastically, and then you should focus on that. So in the personal life, I like want to learn more about the balancing part, setting the boundaries, and self-care. As a doctor, I'm like suggested me to just relax sometime. You are doing too much things. So in the trying to do many things, we somehow forget how when to stop. So that I'm trying to learn at the personal front, when to stop, set boundaries, and also at the professional front, learning more and growing more as a like professionally, and learning how to network. So these things.
Excellent. So if you listen to what Poonam has said, it's split a personal and a professional life, and she's got very clear direction as to where she needs to go. So let's pick up on one of those things that she's spoken about, learning how to network, and she does this beautifully. And I never did this too much on LinkedIn previously. So I'm hoping, and I know I can't see by show of hands, but how many people have a LinkedIn profile here? There's such depth of knowledge, and from I mean, you've got Facebook and Instagram and all of the other things, but I'm talking from a professional perspective. How often do you go into your LinkedIn profile? How often do you comment and react? Reactions are fine, but responding is much more is better, because you're given an opportunity to actually speak about what you know and showcase your knowledge, showcase what you've. I mean, this lady that I met in at the GlowPack last year, her key focus was on sustainability. Everything was around sustainability. And I said to her, so become an expert. If that's what you want to do, go run a sustainability consultancy. And I know that there's reporting standards in India. We don't have it in South Africa yet. I know the ISSBs have to be rolled out, etc. And so many companies have to report. And so companies are looking for people. And she said, nobody is going to look at me because I'm a standalone and I'm on my own and I don't have experience. And so I introduced her to somebody that I'd met possibly 10 years ago in 2014 in Italy at the World Congress of Accountants, because I've kept in contact with him. And I said to him, please, will you mentor or allow her to work or give her some sort of job so that she's able to use that as a reference point to actually grow her own practice. And I think they have done some work together. And as a result of that conversation, she ended up meeting somebody from Deloitte in Singapore who is an ICAI member, and they've now looked at some learning and development thing around sustainability. So what's important from your professional goals is fleshing it out completely. So using LinkedIn, attending events, networking at those events. Even if you just have to say the person's sari is nice, and now suddenly 2 years later you're the best of friends by WhatsApp. So my key takeaway from this is that when you put down your top personal and professional goals, do it for now and really look at it in 3 months and 6 months and 12 months and ask yourself, where am I heading? Am I doing the right thing? Do I need to change course? Do I need to they say when you do the same things, you can't do the same things and expect a different result. You've got to change what you do. There is a hand.
Durga wants to talk.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody is doing good. And today the topic is very hot, and every professional woman, I guess, looking for the solution for this, because many of us, including me, because I worked as a finance controller with the MNC, as well as a plant finance head of a pharmaceutical company that is against the MNC. And after that, getting married, I started my practice because I had no other option. accept to go with the practice because my mother-in-law was suffering with the cancer last stage, and I was having one kid. So according to me, one has to look for the opportunities. If you are not doing a traditional practice, go for some other thing. Like in my case, uh, I was not doing justice to my practice and my job, so I started doing stock market. So I have been doing stock marketing for the last 7 years, and I'm doing good. And I'm happy that I could able to manage my professional life as well as my personal life, because I have two sons now. They are 8 years and 5 years, and I have to look after them also. Like I have to do justice with my motherhood also. So uh, I think Poonam is doing 3 jobs at a time. She's doing professional practice also. She's taking care of her kid and home also, as well as she's doing very good to branch also. That is for it, she's a great inspiration to everybody. Uh, at least for me, because it takes time. It takes lots of efforts to do anything for anybody, being personal, professional, or your professional committee. So that's how I think, yeah. And Kantaji, you have spoken so well. I'm so inspired. I'll be in touch with you for sure after this webinar also. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for your bravery and courageousness. I want to second the fact that Poonam does 3 jobs, but I also want to applaud you on recognizing that you need to have 2 or 3 streams of income. So I think when we end up, and I'll talk for my generation, when we went to university, it was getting the corner office and having the nice job. And then, like I said, I fell into business quite by accident, but I'm very blessed to be in business with a business partner who's my best friend. So we complement each other quite well. But having different streams of income, so recognizing that you can take your talents and earn income in a different way. So the stock market is a perfect example. And I want to share with you a story of a lady called Niraja Ganesh. I met her in Bangalore in January. She spoke with us. She's a TEDx speaker, and she's she's an amazing IT lady, but you'll find her on LinkedIn, and please connect with her and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm sure you can search me and I accept all of the connections because I love connecting with people. But Niraja said something to us, and when she came to speak to us, she had on a beautiful sari, and she said how she wore sari every day to work, and she was being sent on an assignment to Paris. And one of the requisites, or before they went to Paris, they were told, as Indian women, you need to dress business-like, meaning no salwar, no sari, you must go in a business suit. So she went to her supervisor and she said to her supervisor, look, I've worn a sari every day since the day I was married. Before that, I wore salwar kameez. And the reality is, I'm willing to not wear my sari, but I'm not willing to wear business attire because I feel very uncomfortable in pants, etc. And they said, no, you've got to try because this is it is a big business for us. So she went to Paris and she ended up going to the first meeting, and they attend the first meeting, and everybody else is dressed obviously in business, and here's very awkward looking Indian subcontinent, and I don't know whether they were Pakistani people as well, but they were at this meeting looking very uncomfortable. And she came in with her salwar. And the ladies were shocked, and they said to her, but the rule was that you can't come dressed as this. Of course, this was many years ago. Things have changed quite a bit. But so she said, no, I went to speak to our boss and I said to him, I'm not giving up who I am, my identity, what I stand for as an Indian woman, as a married Indian woman. I will not go in business attire. I will go in. And she went in a salwar and it was fine. And there was no, and the other 3 ladies were very uncomfortable in skirts and coats because you're not used to wearing that. And so a lesson out of this, and it's exactly what Durga said, is identify who you are, identify what you need to do and what you need to do differently, and give credence to your being a mother, being a good professional, being a wife, and all the different hats that we wear. And Niraja drove that home in January when she spoke to us, and she said, never give up who you are. Pause and reflect and ask yourself, how do I change things? Like I did with the meetings. And my business partner, I think she's on this call, she'll tell you, we used to even do meetings. My children used to be swimming at the gym for their swimming lessons. And she and I used to be attempting to cycle on the stationary bikes, but chat with each other and catch up about clients. And people used to ask us, are you actually exercising? Because it was our catch-up time whilst I could watch my children and she could come help me in the gym. So you've sometimes got to do what you do, but you've got to change the circumstances to suit you and be an individual. Whether it's in your dress, whether it's how you run your business, and you've got to be bold and courageous. And you could very well remember there are two things. People could say yes or no. And so there's a 50-50 chance of getting what you want, or requesting what you want, or changing what you want. So yeah, very, very important lessons. And please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd like to chat with all of you after this as well. Do we have anybody else wanting to share anything or wanting to know anything?
Good evening, Kantaji. My name is Ranganayaki Rangachari. I would like to resonate a lot of your stories. I've been into employment for 20 years. Later, we started a practice like with my best friend, and we run almost a similar all-women firm in Navi Mumbai. And as you said, we don't have any intention of not employing male, but it goes so happens that, end of the day, I have one or two, and then it goes. My only suggestion to every woman out here is whatever be the struggles, we should not let go of our career, try to keep it. My husband, I was in a big private equity firm. My husband got posted in China for a secondment. I went with him. I took up an employment. I took a sabbatical for 3-4 months. Look for a flexi time employment. I always say you have to synthesize and not let go of your career at any point in time. We have attained the best possible career, to complete a CA. It took so much of energy and effort for every woman to do that. So we should not give up on your career and keep it at some point in time. Priorities will change, but we have to keep it alive. And that's the only thing, I'm very happy to hear you today. It's been wonderful listening to you.
Thank you so much. And it's nice to hear that. I like the way in which you say, don't stop. You've always, remember, you're always an individual. You always have the ability to earn and be independent, etc. The fact that you're married, yes, you're married and you're a union and you do things together, but at the end of the day, you've still got to be you for you. And so I love what you said about, your husband took up employment in China. I have another story. I moved to Johannesburg. Our business, my business partner and I, we're based in Durban. And I moved to Johannesburg because my husband got a job in Johannesburg. And from a business perspective, we didn't know how to spin the story. And the story that we spun to the rest of the world and to all of our clients was that we are opening a branch in Johannesburg, which necessitated my move. Not that my husband was moving, that we were opening a branch. And so it helped leapfrog us into another province and set up not a different type of business, not an office, but a different type of business here. So always look for the opportunity. I love what you're saying, because there are opportunities in everything. Even during COVID, there were opportunities because we ended up being able to hold the roti on the stove and balance the books on the left-hand side of the laptop because we were at home. So never mind, everybody was at home, but we managed to actually, the balancing act was a little bit easier I don't know, sometimes it was easier and sometimes it was harder. But I think COVID taught us a few lessons too. Anybody else want to share before I read another question out?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Francesca, welcome. This is a CYPA member. I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
you joined.
Thank you, Kanta. Yeah, I'm really motivated and inspired by the presentation. I would want to comment more on when you said it's life is like a seesaw, this finding a work balance. You said on one end, you said there's work. On the other end, it's your personal life. As women, sometimes we forgo some things that we really want to have. Sometimes we miss the things that we really want to achieve because of migrating or even change of work for your spouse, and you end up missing up the opportunities. But because of this presentation, I'm seeing that it's very important to prioritize. Prioritizing is very important. I should know exactly what is it that I want to achieve in life. It will help you as you grow in the journey. And a career is not a destination, but it is a journey. Therefore, you need to continue working hard. And you talked about continuous improvement. We need to be doing that in order for us to grow in our careers. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Francesca. And I'll tell you where I met Francesca. She attended, she got her qualification, her cyber qualification. I don't remember whether you were pregnant at the time, but I got her at the graduation. Were you pregnant when you wrote the exam?
No.
You wrote the
I was
exam,
not.
she passed the exam, and then she attended the graduation, and she happened to sit at my table. And we exchanged numbers, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And she lives in Johannesburg, but she's a good example of continuous improvement, because she always reaches out and says, I'm looking for this opportunity. Can you help me? Is there a link? Is there something I can attend? How do I learn a little bit more about what I need to do? So I think, and Francesca ended up having the baby, and baby is over a year, 2 years. No, yeah, maybe about 2 years, 2.5 years old now. But she's still constantly looking at how to improve herself and grow her business and learn new things. And I think this is one of the things in our profession from a CPD perspective. We've got CPD, which is technical, tax, IFRS, and all of the other things that we do. But it's also empowering ourselves with these sort of topics and understanding what we need to do to change ourselves. Because if you change nothing, you're not going to get a different result. So thank you for sharing, Francesca. I'm happy to see you here.
Okay.
Okay, I want to go down the questions, and I want to see whether I can answer one of these questions for you, so I can get you some, if nobody else wants to ask a question, that is. Let me just check the chat. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Okay, great. So let me.
I would like to ask that you mentioned that women are afraid to ask. So can you elaborate why are they afraid to ask, so that it becomes easier for us or more simpler for us to get out of this mode of being afraid to ask upfront?
So where does fear come from? Fear comes from the unknown and not knowing what's coming at you, or being able to control what's coming at you. So one of the things, and it's a hard thing. I guess people say to me I'm an extrovert, and so it's easy to identify with being able to ask a question or put myself in a difficult position, or stand up and speak. And my kids say this to me as well. They said, "Oh, it's easy for you. You can just stand up and speak." But I haven't always been this way, and I think the basis of this comes from, if you're wanting to ask the question, you almost have to know the answer in the beginning. You almost need to know the answer to the question, and it's good to practice in cases like this. So you are all colleagues or members of the same branch. You possibly know each other, you possibly don't. In order, and when you ask a question, you think the other person is going to think that I'm stupid. No question is stupid in life. There's nothing that's a silly question. And and I've done this before in meetings where somebody asks a question for clarification, and somebody else across the room is smirking or laughing. I stop this person from smirking or laughing and say to them, please give the person time to speak. And so I think it works both ways. Number one, it's understanding what you want to get out of the answer in the beginning, because in the beginning you're scared, right? Because you think the people are going to laugh at you. I want to give you an example. My first board meeting, 2007, 2008. I didn't know what to expect. I just got onto the board. I was the only woman in a room of 11 men, 12 men. I didn't know what to expect. My father said to me, on the agenda, and then you must read the board papers and you must understand what's going on. Well, they didn't agree on the board on the agenda. I read all of the board papers. It was all printed out in big. It wasn't digital. It was all printed out, and nobody could agree on the agenda. And there was a big bun fight going on across the table, and people were stamping and hitting on the desk, etc. So you don't ask a question. So I phoned my father that evening and I said to him, they have not agreed on the agenda. Nothing you said that would happen happened. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow because there are only 2 days and we have done nothing of the agenda. And all he said to me was, I need to just listen and write down my questions. And so that's what I did. I didn't ask them. I listened and I wrote them down. And after that meeting, at that time, I had a good relationship with the chief executive. I said to him, these are the questions I wanted to ask because I'm so lost as to what's going on in this meeting. And he said, that's fine. Keep those questions. When you come to the next meeting, you may want to ask those questions because those questions will still be relevant. And true to the word, those questions were still relevant. And because I'd written them down and now taking notes again, because my father said, write everything down, I asked a question and I was shaking. I was holding the piece of paper, but I was shaking because there were all these men staring at me going, she speaks, because I didn't speak the first 2 days of the meeting. And they said, well, you should have read what happened last year. And then my response to that was like, I don't have last year. This is my second meeting. And from that, I built courage to ask. So it's very difficult to ask in the beginning, but you've almost got to preempt and understand what's going to come at the end. Eventually, you will get used to being put into that difficult pot, into that difficult corner. And you can stand up and ask. I'll give you an example. My business partner will laugh. How did I become to get onto cyber? In 2005 in Cape Town, we had our company's registration office commissioner sitting on the stage. So I said to her, I'm going to ask a question or rather make a comment. And she said, because remember, there were 10 women out of 400 men. So I got the mic and I stood up and I said, this is my name. I'm a small practitioner. I have a really good suggestion for you, Commissioner. I'm your agent. As an accountant, I'm your agent. I set up companies. But when I tell people it will be registered in 2 months, 3 months, sometimes 6 months later, the company is not registered. So remember, this was 2005. We didn't have all of the technology we had now. And I asked and I was shaking and I sat down, and straight after that session was the lunch period. And somebody came running up to me and said, oh, are you from Durban? And I said, yes, I am. And they said, you must come to our meetings. And I said, you don't understand. My daughter's 2.5 years old. This is the first time I've left her. This is my friend, Rukia. And I just want the solution because all I'm interested in is servicing my clients and running my practice. That conversation and that question, which was a very innocent suggestion to how they need to change things to make things simpler, better, faster, led to me starting my positions at CYPA and coming through the ranks and having this board position, ending up being the chairperson of the board. So that boldness and that courageousness to ask, sometimes courageousness doesn't come automatically. Sometimes, and I've done this before as well, I've stood in front of a mirror with a piece of paper and read to myself because I know I'm going to get questions. When I became chairman of the board, I took over and I had to run the AGM because the chairperson had resigned. I was the vice chairperson at the time. The questions that were asked, I could answer as being a board member, but now the buck stopped with me. I had to answer the questions at the AGM. And it was very tough and people were screaming at me and I didn't have all of the answers. But it's by being put into situations like that that you build the courage and the resilience to continue asking or standing up or being the person who challenges, etc. But you have to have that arsenal of knowledge in your back pocket, because if you don't know a little bit about what you're asking, you could very quickly spiral into looking like you really don't know what you're doing, really don't know what you're asking. So I hope that helps, Ritika. Anyone else? Okay, so I want to answer one of these questions about embracing imperfection. And the first one is reflecting on a recent mistake or failure and what did you learn from it? So my mistake, and I'll tell you, this is my mistake because I talk too much and I'm over friendly and I want to help the whole world. And my son said this to me in no uncertain terms. So I was going to GlowPack in November. I'd booked the ticket. I was on one of the panels, and Aniket had asked Mudit to contact me. I spoke to Mudit. It was all sorted out. I was flying through Dubai, booked the tickets, and I knew I had a 15-hour layover in Dubai. That's fine because I had meetings. It was a work day in South Africa. So I left South Africa, all excited, working on my laptop, catching up with office things, did my sleep on the flight, all of that. Got there early in the morning. And when you arrive in Dubai, you've got to sometimes change terminals. But as I went through security and I got to at the end, this lady tapped me on my shoulder and she asked me in Tamil, which I actually understood. I understood she was lost. I don't speak Tamil. I don't understand a lot of it, but I understood what she asked me because it was simple Tamil. And she thought I was, obviously, I am South Indian, but she thought I spoke. So I turned around to her and I said, I understand what you're asking me. I don't speak Tamil, but I know what you need. I know you're lost and you're looking for your gate. So I will take you to your gate. But of course, it was very early in the morning. And so I changed terminals with her. I took her to her gate. I sat with her. I showed her how to connect to the Wi-Fi. I was helping somebody. So I was feeling really, really good about myself because this is my thing. I must help somebody every day. This is just my nature. So anyway, got her to the gate. She told her daughter. We took photos. We did all of that. She got her to the gate and off she went to Kuwait because she was coming all the way from New Zealand and her husband had accompanied his parents back to Chennai. And I got to know her and we're good friends. But I'd forgotten I changed terminals with her. But it's a 15-hour wait. I then had a call with GlowPack for my panel to understand what I was going to speak on, and we were going through all of that. I checked into the lounge. I had my other meetings there. I got lunch. I did all of the things. And I'd forgotten I changed terminals because I was sitting in the Emirates terminal and I needed to be in the Fly Dubai terminal, which is Terminal 1. Anyway, I got to the evening and I met another wonderful woman and I spoke to her and she invited me to her country and it was also nice. I was meeting all of these nice people and I bought a pizza and I got to the gate at the time because it said Ahmedabad. And so I'm not thinking this is Emirates, I should be at Fly Dubai. So I get to the terminal, get to the gate and I'm in the queue and I'm hearing all these people speaking and everybody's excited and like, some people are going home and of course a lot of Indian nationals. I get to the counter and the lady said, I'm sorry, ma'am, but you're at the wrong gate. You're actually flying Fly Dubai and it seems as if your flight has left already at 9:15 p.m. after those 15 hours. And so I looked at her and I said, oh, this is my boarding pass. And she said, no, it's Fly Dubai. And of course it said Fly Dubai. But I'd forgotten. And this was my biggest mistake ever of my life. I never miss a flight. Directions wonderful. I always get things right. And I'm now panicking and I'm running through the airport, but I'm texting on my family group with my son. And my son is like, oh my goodness, we've got to now look at this. And so we get the ticketing agent, the travel agent on board. And he says, you've got to book a new ticket because you've just lost your ticket. And I said, but I'm speaking at this conference. I've got to get there no matter what. What are the costs? Do I fly through Bangalore? How do I get there? Eventually, after about 2 or 3 hours, we figured it out and I had to change terminals and go to Terminal 1. And now I'm in Terminal 1 and it's, I don't even know, midnight. But I'm leaving the next day and I can either check into the hotel or I can now figure out what I'm going to do. And I'm an accountant. I'm not going to spend in Rand terms, 3,000 Rand for a couple of hours to just sleep and get up and leave the hotel. I now have to think about, as a professional accountant, a 50-year-old professional accountant, what do I do in the airport for another 9 hours, 9 or 10 hours? And so I changed terminal and my son said to me, it's all wonderful that you help people and you meet new people, but you have lost your focus. What is your focus? To get to Ahmedabad to speak at the conference. This has cost you another ticket. And so now you've got to pay the price. And what is your budget? And I said, well, the budget is blown because we had to buy another ticket, right? to go give this talk. So it's now costing a little bit more because, anyway, I go to Terminal 1 and I do what I haven't done since I was 16 and 17 years old. I find a comfortable couch and I had the best 9 hours of sleep that day on that couch. And I fell asleep and I woke up the next morning, freshened up and got onto the flight at the right time, got to Ahmedabad a day later, missed the opening of Glowpack. But that was one of my biggest mistakes and most recent mistakes. And what did I learn from it? Is that I need to focus on what I'm going to do. And I know I want to help the world and help the auntie find the gate and make new friends and be invited to all over the world and all of these things. But the focus is I needed to be at the conference. And so I lost focus, and that I need to work on. So that's one of my own personal stories. And it was very recent. It was now in November when I was coming to ICAI's Glowpack in Ahmedabad. And it was an expensive mistake. And I've learned that if you set aside, you do this today, you must do this today. There's things on the periphery which talk to your heart, but you can do that after you do what you've set out to focus and get today. That's my personal story. I want to know if somebody else wants to share something with us or ask a question. Nilesh, do you want to offer anything?
Good evening. It was very nice listening to you. And as you speak, I just recollect my story, not my story, my wife's story. So I'll share something about my wife. She was earlier in job and she had her job in a real estate company, and it was a 10 to 7 job. But we had a kid in around 2006, and after some 2-3 years, when the kid started going to school or something, nursery, it was a day like for her. It started at 5:30 in the morning, and she used to get ready and everything, and then 7 o'clock the bus used to come. She used to leave her for the bus stop, and then come back to the home, get the food ready, everything, then going to office. And then I think around 10:30, 11, the kid, she used to come back from the school, pick her up, leave her to the crush, then again go back to the office, then lunch, and then she in between she was around 3 o'clock. She used to pick her up again, go to the tuition, leave her to there, come back, then job, then again swimming pool, leave her there for 2 hours, then come back. So on and off, from morning 5:30 to evening 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock maybe. She had slots of every 1.5-2 hours, and there was a lot of distraction, and she missed continuity. And this we realized during COVID. In COVID, when there was my child was at home, and she was there from morning to evening in the home. My wife had lot of time for herself and lot of what we call as a mm, straight 8 hours time. And over a period of time, what I realized that is ambition and goals have to be in sync. And particularly the mother, she takes up the personal responsibility about her child. As a father, I am also equally responsible for my child, but as a mother, and what we have in tradition, that uh, food, house, child, uh, other these priorities are priorities designated to women. and the earning and all, these are designated to men. This is our traditional system. But over a period of time, maybe last 15-20 years, things have changed. Education and other things have catched up, and women are now equal partners. Now, in this process, the parenting and other parts of this thing, like I have never been told by my mother that this is your role, this should be also part of your they might have given me good culture, good etiquettes, good guidelines, but this portion of doing family work, and it is like equal responsibility towards the house. So this has to be taught, and over a period of time what we are seeing is both the parents are not even teaching it to the girl child, or they are not even giving this guidance to the boy. And the future is like everyone is having more and more nuclear families nowadays. So this is going to be very difficult how they are going to manage the house. And ultimately what is happening is, it is by default the culture gives this responsibility is given to the woman. Like Rama ma'am said that everything is to be adjusted by the when a child is born, or when things are changing in your life, in the life, as from the perspective of family, the woman adjusts, woman does all her adjustments. So she curtails her time, she curtails her ambitions and all those things. So equally the men should be responsible and men should learn it. So how do men do it? It is over a period of time. Like you said, you taught your son how to make rotis. So it should be like we should have one session or one practical training for the men's also of your families. And in one Sunday, it should be like that men will work, and slowly this change will happen. So that is what is expected from the next generation, next 10 years, that the more the woman will become self-dependent, the men has to share the burden from the families. That's
I'm so glad you spoke about that, because it's a joint responsibility, and with women generally everywhere, and this is just not Indian women. Women bear the burden and take the, I mean, we've seen it during COVID, right? We see during COVID most of the responsibility, men were working 24/7 online, but women were also working 24/7 online. In fact, in my house, that's what was happening. Everybody was sitting in front of a computer and then meeting in the kitchen to try and figure out what's going on with food, because we were working so many more hours. But I like what you said and the suggestions you have made. And I think it's also incumbent on you within your nuclear family. And I mean, it's easy for us to sit here and talk and say men need to take the responsibility, but women, I think also we are very guilty of not allowing ourselves to be helped, or asking for the help, or saying to your spouse. And I'll speak about Niraja again here, because she spoke about, she lived, her in-laws lived with her, so in the very traditional sense of the word, in terms of how we all grew up with, living with your grandparents or living in a larger family. And she took care of her mother-in-law, and it was and her father-in-law. It was time on a Thursday for her to do the cooking, because they had special prayers, etc. And she said her shifts had changed, and they had asked her to work longer hours on a Thursday. And so she couldn't go home and prepare the dinner. And so eventually she used to try and do this early in the morning, and then they employed a cook and have the cook help. And so eventually she said to her husband, on a Thursday for 3 months, I'm not going to be able to do this, because I just can't, because my work expects me. And I mean, she was in a very high C-suite position. And just by asking, and by making sure that everybody was aware of what her arrangements were, she was able to actually get through that hurdle. So I think by asking your spouse, and having a spouse as understanding, and CNLH has given us a very good example, where men are willing to come to the party. Some men aren't, and unfortunately you can't change that. And some women aren't willing to ask for their help. But I think we've got to look at striking that healthy balance, especially where we sit now, like you said, where there are two professionals in a home, or sometimes the woman's taking the more of the work burden and the chore responsibility of chores, etc. But it certainly is a conversation, because I don't see that happening with the next generation. In fact, I don't see that happening with my kids, with my son, or nor with my daughter. In fact, I think my son would attempt to make roti more than my daughter would, if the if truth be told. But they both equally of women. There was something I shared early this morning, just with a group of people, and I want to read it to you. And it's about feminism. And when we actually talk about feminism, you think, oh, it's those ladies that are constantly making a noise and wanting to be stronger than anybody else, and wanting to be like men. And I don't think women want to be like men. And this quote resonates with me. Feminism isn't about making women stronger. Women are already strong. It's about changing the way the world perceives that strength. So we are strong, but it's teaching other people how we interact with the world, and how what their perception of that strength is. And strength is not, I want to be just like a man, I want to be able to earn more money than you, or whatever the case may be. Strength comes in many different forms. So thank you for that contribution, Nalesh. I wanna ask, is there any, and I want to look at the time as well, because we're sitting. Okay, we still got time. Is there anybody else who wants to ask a question or share, or want me to narrate more stories or answer a question from here? Yes, Durga.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, not only to you, Kantaji, from everybody in this house, meeting house, when mostly when a woman is a professional, the home, the husband, the family, in-laws, or your own family also, they think that you are going out, or you want to pursue your professionalism for money, mostly. So what if there is a situation when husband is earning very well off, right? And he doesn't want you to work. And he says, you don't go out, you don't have to work for money. It's fine. I am earning. You spend the way you want to spend. So how to tackle this situation? I know it's a funny question, but it's very relevant, because a few of my friends are going through this situation. They are professional, but they belong to a very well-off family. So their husband, their in-laws, they don't want them to go out and earn. So how to make them understand it's not about earning. It's not about earning. So if you can, I want to discuss with you and every woman here.
So I won't answer this. I want to hear what the Indian women have to say. I'm Indian as well, but I'm not in this context, right? So can I ask, Poonam is still there. I don't know the other people on the call. Let me just go to my list.
Rama ma'am.
Yes. Poonam, can you answer that question? And then ask, you know the people on this call because they're from your branch. And let's start that conversation, and let's talk about how you solve this issue.
Yeah, we have Rama ma'am here. She is very senior member of our branch, very experienced and mentor to us also. I request ma'am to answer this question. Rama ma'am? Or there are some other members also. If anyone, Archana ma'am, you can answer. Rama ma'am, you can answer this. Okay, promote to panelist. He is not panelist, so that's why maybe not able to. I have promoted.
Sorry, Estelle Robin.
Yeah,
Are you?
I can answer this question because I'm more suited to answer this question because there were points in my life wherein I had to move with my husband, both to China and to Saudi Arabia. And both the cases, of course, my son was too young. He was just 3 years old. I didn't have a support system. But my employment is not just for money, it's for my career. And that is the fact that we have done our CA is something we have come through the process of elimination. If I had not done this course, somebody else would have got it. We have not come from the process of selection. We have come on the process of elimination. So in that process, I cannot afford to miss my career. I don't do career. Even today, I would say with proudness, I don't do my career for money. I do it for my happiness, satisfaction, for the sense of giving. And that's how every woman have to look at the career. Money is a byproduct of career. But money is not the only thing we look in career, but it comes automatically. It comes. I am not saying no to that. Just because my family says, first and foremost, do I want to do? Because as a professor in a college, I speak to a lot of my students as well. Some of those women raise their hand and say, how many of you are not going to do a career? I have one or two in every class to say that. And I'm really not happy with that answer. I'm not saying you go to a 9 to 5 employment, but at the same time, you have to do something in life. It is just not, motherhood or being a wife or a mother. You have to have something for yourself. That could be anything. You can run an NGO, you can run a school, you can be a part-time teacher, you can be a practicing professional, you can be all of them, some of them. But I don't think money and career should be equated. It will come. Family should not force people to sit at home. This is my personal opinion. If you sit by choice, it's okay. End of the day, it should be from your choice. Nothing should be forced on you.
Thank you for sharing that, ma'am. Can I ask Estelle Robin?
Yeah. Hello. Good evening. Actually, my name is Ashwini Robin. Estelle Robin is my daughter's name. I was in a hurry to. She always used my email account to attend Zoom calls. So I didn't get time to change the name, or actually, to be honest, I was not able to change initially. So my name is C. Ashwini Robin. So I would echo whatever the previous person said. Like, I am sure there are like hundreds of firms and people around the world who need work to be done and they do not have money to pay the person. So money shouldn't be like, I mean, and there are a lot of men who are like egoistic. They don't want to show that their wives are going out to just earn money. I mean, they have that attitude or ego that I can handle the expenses of the house. So if that is the case, then you need to intelligently tackle the situation. Like what ma'am previously said, there are so many NGOs, there are so many other uh, avenues where your knowledge can be used, where you are not paid for monetarily uh, on a right on a contract basis. Like they may not tell you at the beginning only that I'm going to pay you so much, but at the end of your services, I'm sure you will get something monetarily or non-monetarily, and that is the way to move out of the house. And even the spouse will appreciate you when you start showing your knowledge to the world. He'll also feel proud of you, and then earning is a byproduct, as what ma'am said. That is what I could share. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashwini. I want to add, I think also the way in which the question was posed was what if you're not allowed to, right? And I want to just concentrate on that not allowed to. And I understand it's not an easy thing to navigate because it's a traditional society and a traditional take on things. For me, you are still an individual, and whether somebody allows or doesn't allow you to, I don't even know how to express this. You can't allow people to allow you, if you understand what I'm saying. You've got to take control of who you are and your life, because, and it's not being disrespectful. It's not going against social norms. It's not going against cultural norms. It's not going against people. It's having a conversation and saying to the spouse, the in-laws, whoever the person may be, that it would give me joy for me to contribute to society in this manner. There was the example of the NGO. I'm going to work not for money. I'm going to work for self-satisfaction and to impact another person's life or impact what happens in the economy of India. I know you all have this great saying of Bharat for India. It's living, it's everybody contributes to what you do, which contributes to your community and society and eventually to the country and what India stands for in the global market. So the reality is, it's about changing the narrative and and it's a difficult conversation, because if that family is wealthy and can provide for you, the reason you married into the family is not because you need somebody else to provide for you. The reason you married into the family is because you have a relationship with your spouse. And so you need to get your spouse to understand this. And I want to give you a very silly example. From your Indianness, you will understand this. Francesca's on this call, she may not, but I'll try and relate it. When my son was born, and I remember I was a professional and married into a very traditional family. My in-laws, my mother-in-law said to me, you have to do the naming prayer and you have to sacrifice a chicken. And I said, no. I don't have to do this because I don't believe in taking a life or producing a life. And so I went with my spouse to our guru at the temple and I asked for his wisdom and his reasoning. And I said, please explain to me why I need to do this in a South African Indian context. And he said, you don't have to do it. It was something that was practiced many years ago in India, I believe, where the woman would go into the forest and they would do, and it was all part of this after giving birth, those 40 days that most people observe. So I said, turn to my spouse, to my husband, and I said, if you understand and agree with what the guru is telling us, and I understand this, I need for you to speak to your mother, because it's not right for me to speak to your mother because I'm her daughter-in-law, you are her son. But if you believe the same thing as me, and this is our small family that we are starting, and we're going to do this life together with my son, with our child, you need to contribute to this conversation. And so he did that. He went to his mother and he said, my wife and I do not believe in this. And whilst you may have done this in the past, and he's the only son and I'm the only daughter-in-law, we don't believe this right now. And we don't want to continue this practice because we don't practically and theoretically, we don't believe it. And she accepted the explanation from my husband. And she came to me and she said, we don't need to do this at the 9 days or 7 days prayers. And at the same time, 2 of my sister-in-laws were also pregnant, and they then had babies a month after me and the other one a month after that one. And they stopped this practice as well. They went to their in-laws and said, we don't want to do this. So I managed through that small act to change this entire line of, and it's a principle. I don't believe in taking life at all. You know, it's just not a principle of mine that I live by. And so through that, we ended up changing the narrative in my husband's family, not only with his family, but with my sister-in-laws and their families about this taking of this life, naming of their children. And for me, if I hadn't done it in that manner, and the guru said to me, you will not speak to your in-laws, your husband will speak to your in-laws. And I thank him for that, because he's very progressive in his thinking. He was a young guru. And we obviously placed all of our trust in him with our children and all of the prayers that we did. So sometimes, in order to effect the change, you've got to think creatively around how you make the change possible. And it's sometimes not easy, because I was also the daughter-in-law who could not cook a biryani properly, because I spent more time. I left home when I was 16, and I didn't spend enough time in the kitchen with my mother. And the only thing I can make is roti, and so there was compromise. But I think the lesson from this, or the takeaway from this, is that you've got to start that. You've got to create that mechanism, or the way in which create that change. And it's not always easy. You'll always come across people who will just label you for, oh, she's not there again. And I have another example. My mother-in-law passed away in 2015. I'm the only daughter-in-law, but I own my own business. And Rukia, my business partner, was assisting me at that time, because my mother-in-law was in hospital for a protracted time, for like 3 months. So we were literally living in the hospital, and my business was taking a nosedive. When she passed away, all the prayers that we have to do, the 3rd day and the 5th day and the 7th day, there were some days where I literally had to do the prayers with my husband and leave. Like, I couldn't go into the kitchen because I was rushing back to my office, because I'd been away for so long. So I had a conversation with my father-in-law, and I said to him, I understand that your sisters are here and all of the elders are here, and I'm here every day for 16 days, and I'll do all of the things I have to do. But there's certain days where I just cannot be here. And he said to me, there's nothing wrong with that. You own your business. So he walked into the kitchen, and he just made an announcement, and he said, she owns her own business. She will be here every day. The things that she can and cannot do. There's times when she has to leave. And I'm telling you all that I don't want to hear stories about this. And so that's what happened on 2 or 3 occasions. And he was my sponsor in that regard, because also my daughter was in ballet exams. And so he would say, she's leaving right now, pack up all the stuff because they must eat in the car. And we would leave. And so I won favor through the fact that I was able to have a good conversation with him and say to him, please understand that I'm not being disrespectful. I can't manage all of these things. And so sometimes, I can't tell you how hard the conversations must be, because they will be. You've got to ask, and sometimes you don't get the answer that I just happen to get the good answers, and I happen to be able to have that relationship with in-laws and other. Anyone else? Poonam, you want to contribute?
I also contribute, like I request everyone to not to assume, as you mentioned, Kanta, before asking question, there are chances of 50-50%, yes and no. So there are the equal opportunity of being yes, but many times we just assumes, I know that will be the answer. My in-laws will be like, they are like this only, and if I ask, they will answer this only. So we assumes lot of things. So better not to assume and ask the question. Whatever the favors you want, you ask them. Not ask for the permission, but you just share your thoughts. You just had a good discussion with your family, with your spouse. So and sometimes they may not be that supportive in the starting. So like while I was starting my public life, my husband was not that supportive. Like he was like, what is the for need of doing this, and when I just keep going, I just keep doing the things, and he was the one of the supporter, like, you just go for the orientation program, I will manage your daughter, I will manage everything, you need not to worry. After a period of time, when he understood how necessary it is for me, and how it is changing my life, our family's life, because being busy is also a blessing. So you are busy, you are not taking small fights, small things, you are busy with your things. So in that way, he came as a support. Like now, is the biggest support in my life. So things changes.
Mm. And you must be the change you want to see. So as much as you ask for a bit of leeway on something, you must be willing to give that as well.
Yeah.
So I fully agree. You've got to start living your life intentionally, and you've got to ask yourself, why are we here? Why are we all here on this earth? We're here to not just make money, not just be good chartered accountants, not just build big buildings and acquire a lot of stuff. We're here to make a difference in people's lives. And so whether you do that daily with your own family, or you do that with clients, or you do that however you do that daily, that should be your question. Why am I here, and what difference am I making? And am I making somebody else's life easier or harder? And sometimes that comes from, and it's self-introspection. It's these questions. It's saying, how can I make myself better from the mistakes that I've made? Or how can I ask the bold questions? Last story, I had a young professional accountant who worked for me. She was the first person who qualified in my practice. She was trying to leave after a year, and she was trying to write her covering letter. But she wasn't talking about all of the things that she could do. And she could do a lot of things, but she just wasn't writing it properly. And so I wrote a covering letter for her, and she said, this is the funny thing. Like, I work for you. You're actually encouraging me. You're writing my letter for another job. And I said, well, that's the only way I can get you to acknowledge that you actually are greatness, and you can do these things. And I think often we forget that we do things, and we go through hurdles and challenges quite successfully, and we get through our toughest days, and we think we get to our next toughest day and we can't get through it. You can get through it, you can do it, and you've got to start living your life positively and intentionally, and with a plan as to how you're going to get there. So I think we're running to the end of time as well. And before I go, I would like for each person, I know everybody hasn't spoken, I'd like for each person to just give some reflective thoughts, because we've got about 50 minutes left. So if we could each unmute and talk about what you're going to do, or anything that you want to share, really, no prescription on what you want to share, about how you take things forward in your own life. So I'm putting you on the spot, because that's one of the things. Be brave and courageous, and be able to speak when you're just not normally used to speak. So can we start with Ashwini? Are they
Hello.
able to unmute? Yes, there we go.
Okay, am I audible now? Yeah. I'm CA Ashwini Robin, and I'm from Navi Mumbai. And thank you so much, ma'am, for all the things that you shared and this platform that was there for us. And by chance, I was able to attend today's session. That itself, I would like to thank God for giving me this opportunity to attend this session. And definitely, it has given a lot of points which we can carry forward as to what we are supposed to do. And like what you said, empathy that we lack when we are much younger. I still remember when I was working, the younger people always feel when mothers at jobs, they don't realize that person may be facing those challenges. But when that person becomes a mother, then that person remembers, oh, how she managed all those things. I mean, when you said those things came to my mind, many a times when we were also as young chartered accountants, when we joined, we might have not been empathetic towards our senior professionals at that.
Thank you for that, Ashwini. I'm just going with the names that I see on
balancing act. needs to be attended by men was a suggestion, but I feel it should also be attended by young practicing students, so they see what they can see 30 years, and also how they should respect their elder or senior chartered accountants, and respect how challenging and brave they are in what they are doing. Because unless that support comes from one woman to another woman, that is more important than the immediate support system also. Because the kind of talk, negative talk, gossips, everything that a lady has to face in office, like when she has to leave at 5, the younger colleagues say that, oh my God, this person is leaving. So it would be a more supportive environment. So even student chartered accountants, young girls, all should be given such kind of so there is more empathy. That is what I would like to say. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thanks, Ashwini. Such a great suggestion. And I think it's maybe a good suggestion to take forward to start a series of discussions like this, is people being able to share openly and discuss, because there's always another side. There are always 2 sides or 3 sides. Can I go to somebody who hasn't spoken, Chandani? Are you able to unmute?
Dani, are you able to unmute? Has he unmuted? Participant can turn on their camera also if they are like comfortable.
That's fine. Yeah, if you can turn on your camera, no hassle. You can or you can't. Can you hear us, Chandani? Because you're unmuted. Maybe not.
Thank you, ma'am.
Pinky?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I'm traveling. So
Okay.
my voice may break.
Yeah.
It's just, I really liked your session, and somehow I was able to correlate with my life also. I've undergone all these in my life. But if you are saying, if some females are saying not allowed, allowed, I always feel that you need to balance life. That's it. As in men required. So when your kids are very, very small, they need your attention. So it's not that, so having a CA degree, I think it's a very supreme degree, and it does not require you have to travel. So at that time you can do flexi hours. Means I think we can definitely adjust anything. We are always at deadlines. So we can always put some deadlines. Okay, this work I'm going to do at this time. This will, and accordingly I can adjust my timing and never allow my professional, I say qualification, just let go at that time. And when the kids grow up, like my son has grown up, he's doing a job now. So now I'm having ample of to my profession. So accordingly, what happens ki you should never let go your qualification. Okay, let's take a break. It may happen ki maybe you may have to take a break, but that self-determination, I must say ki that determination should always be there. That we have to do, I have to do, and I will do it. If you have this thinking in your mind, you can definitely do something in your life. And money, of course, I always feel that ki if you are honest, it will means money, whatever is there in your luck, it will come automatically. You don't have to struggle for it. But if you keep on chasing, if I always feel that ki, okay, if I have 10 rupees in my kitty today, it will come. So I don't chase for it. I just chase ki, okay, I need to do something productive today. And if I'm not doing anything productive today, I feel very upset. So that is my objective every day. Ki, okay, apart from the family life, apart from kids, apart from husband, everyone, I need to spend few hours productive, giving to the society, and of course, justifying my qualification. I have experienced this, and I'm actually taking this policy still means in my life.
Excellent
Thanks a lot
contribution.
for this.
Thank you, Pinky. And so right. Everybody is in a different season of their life. And when your kids are young, you either take them to work, or you, like my kids, eventually didn't even want, they don't even want to look at accounting because they've been lugged all over the place trying to be mini accountants themselves. But they're much older now. Can we hear, there's another Ashwini. See Ashwini with your camera on. Can you share with us?
Yes. So, yeah, firstly, thank you for such a wonderful insights. I am recently married and I have yet to go to the break phase, and I am just planning for a kid. So it's very delightful to hear all you beautiful women and all the things. And the number one thing which I'm going to keep in mind is to take a stand for myself, and that I have to get back to work as soon as possible, because maybe 10 years before, or at the times when you guys were pregnant, things were a bit different. But nowadays things are much more different, and the partner is also supportive. They try to help in the household chores as well. So it's very like I'm very thankful for the opportunity of hearing you, and I'm looking forward to implement it in my life, and to keep on doing very well in my professional work as well as in my personal life. And thank you, Nileshji and Poonamji, for this wonderful session.
Thank you, and we look forward to hearing more from you. Please connect on LinkedIn. CA Rasmina Isaf?
Yeah, hi, Kanta. Sierra is Meena here. I'm sorry, I'm home. It's first Rosa. I'm home. My
Yes,
child
I
is just
realize
sleeping.
it's also, yes.
Yeah, so I'll not be able to put on the camera. But as I said, it was a wonderful session. And as a lot of the ladies said, that, everyone will be able to resonate and correlate to experiences that you just shared with us, because each and every, woman, some or the other phase of their life, they will have to go through all of this, and they do go through all of this. So that's why whenever I meet other professional women, I tell them to come out of their practice, come out of their service at times, and meet other professionals. Then you will realize that you're not the only one sailing on the same boat. Everyone is there with you. Everyone is having the same experiences, and this will give other person the strength, to do more better, because then they'll realize that, there are other professionals who are going through the same thing, but then they are flying, they are coming out with flying colors. They're able to do good in life. So, we also have to do it. So that will give them strength. But the question is, the condition is that you have to come out, you have to meet other professionals, you have to, share. Because in today's world, network is your net worth. So if you do not connect, you are missing on to a lot of things. So that's what I would want to say. And yes, money is always will be a byproduct. I always keep telling this to Poonam, that, whatever is destined for me to receive, I will receive. And whatever is not destined to me, even if it comes to me, it will go away. So, I am not, again, as Pinky ma'am also said, we don't have to chase money. It will come as a byproduct. We have to ensure that we just have to take a leap of faith every time. We have to count our blessings anytime we, feel low, and do meditation. And just every day, whenever you leave your house and whenever you start your work, just start with a positive note. That's all.
Excellent. Thank you. That's so insightful, and what you said resonates with me. So I'm inspired from the things that you're sharing. Can I ask? I'm calling out names, but I don't know. Ekta Singhal. No, can you? And I can't see you on my screen, but I can't see your name.
She is in the attendees, so I think she has to be
unmuted.
She will need to be added as a panelist first for her to be able to speak.
Oh, I see. Oh, I apologize. I didn't realize that.
So people whom you see as a panelist will be able to speak and, share their video.
Oh, I see. Okay. I didn't realize it was split that way. Sorry, I've just seen that now. Okay, so can I ask if you want to raise your hand and share, because we are coming a minute away from when we should be ending, and it's been such a lovely conversation and such good sharing and insight. Can I ask if you want to say something? And I know I'm cutting it short, but because of time, and I know it's 6 p.m. It's almost 6 p.m. in India. Can I ask that you raise your hand if you want to say something, and if not, or you unmute? Chandani?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good evening, everyone. It was a very wonderful session. Myself, C. Chandni Rathod, I'm practicing from Kalamboli. So basically, here what I have understood is struggle are very different at every phase. Like I am unmarried, I'm yet to get married, and there is time for that also. But I would say it's not like somebody who is not married doesn't have a problem, right? At the same time, I can't relate to the problems married women are facing, and the career gap and the career uncertainties which are going to be part of the future. But what I have understood from the session and from my experiences, we should have the positivity to fight every situation. Like the topic for today's session is hustling and then art of letting go. So at the same time, it should be the mantra we should follow. Obviously there will be times where we are supposed to let go things which are not working in our favor or which are not meant for us, but at the same time being positive that what is meant to be mine will come to me, and at the same time I need to work hard to achieve that, is what I personally follow. And think that is the uh, that is the thing which can keep us moving ahead.
Thank you for sharing. And it was muted, but I was saying excellent, because the reality is that like I said, we're all in different seasons of our lives, but whether you're married or unmarried, you're presented with different circumstances and different challenges. And so I'm very glad that you shared with us, Chandani. We're a minute over, and I want to ask Nilesh, because I know we shouldn't go on, because from a time and boundaries perspective, you just spoke about boundaries, and people will need to do what they need to do at home. I want to round up, and I want to thank all of you for attending. I want to thank Poonam, especially for keeping in touch, and for our network and our special sisterhood and friendship across the oceans. And the fact that we ended up becoming friends in 2002 just by chance, by me complimenting your sari. And I want to thank the chairman of the Navi Mumbai branch for hosting me and for allowing me to share my thoughts and allow me to share my stories and talk to you all. And it's been wonderful. It's always wonderful engaging with ICAI members, because we're similar yet so different, but different yet so similar. In that I'm sure you could relate to some of my stories relating to my Indianness around my profession and how I've grown in this profession. But thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
No? So, on behalf of Navi Mumbai branch, I would like to give you a certificate of appreciation, an online certificate. And whenever you come to India, we'll like to host you again. And as one of the one of the attendees suggested, that this session is a kind of session that is needed by everyone. And coming back to one of the points which one of the CA Durga has raised about how to, if they are not allowing, if the counterpart is not allowing, and the various suggestions which has come, that it is like the balancing act. This is what is the topic about, how to balance it, hustling smartly, letting it go. So it's not an end to your life. If you persist continuously, if you act smartly, and if you are focused on your goal, but at the same time you are calm, composed, you will definitely find a way to reach to your goal. Maybe the first choice may not come to you directly, but someday or the other you will find the right time to strike. So have patience, and it was wonderful session. Thank you, Poonam ji, for inviting Kanta ji for this session. And it is not just that she is a international speaker or someone, but it was really a very one-to-one kind of conversation. Everyone was able to relate to it, and the topic selected by Poonam ji was also very, very bang on. My this year's theme is Antavriddhi, and Antavriddhi means uh, you develop yourself. So every chartered accountant, when he pass out, so he is at a particular stage, then he grows, then he elevates himself, then he accelerates himself to reach that goal of the specialization and whatever he thinks. But ultimately when you reach a point, then you are enough of development and enough of growth. You you need something which is like, which is inner development, which is like the last stage of your life, last stage of your. So uh, and particularly women's, they have to do the personal goals and professional goals. When personal goals synergize with professional goals, that will be the ultimate thing for anyone. And this is not only for women, for even for male, whatever personal ambitions are there and whatever professional ambition, like you said, okay, what is your ultimate goal next 5 years down the line, or say after I complete say 50-55 years. So I will be liking to go for a travel, I would like to tour all over the world, like attending seminars and all those things. But at the same time I need to earn, so I will like to go consulting mode or something like that. So all this needs to be synergized, and this synergy, you have to have a long term goal. So thank you for all your bullet points, and it was so crisp and clear way of delivering, that I think everyone has benefited. And since we have the recording of this session, we'll definitely upload it on our website and on the YouTube. So uh, thanks everyone for attending, who could uh, attend, and definitely share your views and give feedback to our in our WhatsApp group. And I think, Poonam, you can conclude.
Yes, yes, it's like such a mesmerizing experience to listen, Kanta. I was noting it down and making notes as well. And wonderfully, she mentioned that it's about utilizing your resources and delegating, embracing the imperfections, self-compassion, learn continuously, and allow to be like criticized also. It's not that everybody is going to appreciate you. And the example of of that lady, she want to attend in a sari, that I'm not going to give up who I am. And the way she is contributing in the world by teaching both the kids cleaning and cooking, and it is not a gender specific thing. So all these things to learn from you. And thank you so much for today's session. And I think about all, like I'm getting messages also on the WhatsApp that she's superb and she's amazing. And all the members is going to connect with you on the LinkedIn. So thank you so much, Kanta.
Thank you, and I'm so grateful for this time and this the ability to chat with you all. And I'm really like I could come back and chat with all of your different levels, the men and the students, because I do believe it's a change in mindset. And I love your theme for this year because it means I'm developing self and I'm understanding who I am and the role that I play, within the broader profession. Because if I'm not developed, and how do I make an impact with everybody else around me? So good luck with that, and maybe I'll even get to your June event. Let's Let's put that into my diary.
Thank you. Thank you. very much.
Thank you and have a good evening, everybody.
Signing off for this time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.